The citizens of Chicago have a lot to say after the city council approved an extra $70 million to care for illegal immigrants. The mayor's office says nearly 40,000 of them have arrived in that sanctuary city since August of 2022. Try millions in Texas. Try that out. Well, they are a sanctuary city, Chicago, so what do they expect? They put out the shingle. And tax-paying Chicagoans showed up in force ahead of the city council vote.
The city doesn't feel the same anymore.
Y'all mismanaging this, failing actually.
We need that money in my neighborhood.
$70 million. Y'all won't even put $1 million in one neighborhood.
Vote for the money for these immigrants today, and we coming for them seats.
Yeah. Ooh, they're coming for somebody else's seat, too. Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson's. Organizers of the recall movement need some 56,000 signatures to get the recall option on the ballot later this year. We'll be watching. Fox News political analyst and Chicago native Gianno Caldwell. Gianno, I did notice some anger in the room, but I also noticed some people with a plan.
Absolutely. And they are doing the right thing by saying we're coming directly for your seats, including you, Mayor Brandon Johnson. As Mayor Brandon Johnson's message, I believe, to Chicagoans have been quite clear. Get on the back of the bus. Now, that's everybody, but especially those black voters who are the reason he's mayor today. Get on the back of the bus. And these voters in Chicago, and I speak to a lot of them pretty regularly, pretty weekly, they're serious about voting for Trump. They're serious about handing the election in Illinois to Donald Trump, as you only need 20% of Cook County, which is within Chicago. That's Cook County, the county that encompasses the suburbs as well. He can win Illinois. Now, the problem is for many of the Chicagoans there, they've been destitute for many, many years with services from the city. Since I was a kid, 14 years old, working in politics, people have been asking for help and resources, and they say they didn't have any until now.
Well, they had the resources. They just weren't spending them on you, the citizens. Okay, so you mentioned Trump, and you mentioned blacks in particular taking a look at maybe voting in their own interest. You know, I had lifelong Chicagoan Kata Truss on the Focus back in February. She got a bigger conversation around the nation started about her frustrations in Chicago. Let's revisit.
Turn Chicago red. We are so angry with Pritzker and with President Biden and with our mayor that we have decided that we're going to vote Republican this time around. Wow. That's just how angry we are. We are so angry that we are willing and going to turn our backs on the Democratic Party.
So what do you predict will happen? I know they want to unseat people. Will that actually happen? Because typically, as you get closer to voting day, everybody goes back to their silos and they get a few goodies or whatever from Democrats, and they're reminded that black people vote Democrat, and if you don't, you're not really black. President Biden said that. So what do you think will happen?
Well, just look at the sentiment across the country. In Denver, that was recently an asylum-seeking group who said just to give us 6 months worth of rent, food, cash, and all these other things is a slap in our face. For people who never committed a tax dollar ever, it's a slap in their face. But you turn that same mirror on in Chicago, and they see folks in their neighborhoods, places where they used to send their kids so they can be safe, park districts, a number of different entities that have been taken over by the migrant class, and people are upset, and rightfully so. I think we should be watching very closely what's going to happen in the DNC, because that message right there before the election is going to resonate very clear about how Chicagoans are feeling about the Democratic Party, especially bringing the migrants to the city, but many other issues like crime and others.
Oh, yeah. What about the economy? I mean, gas prices going right back up, food prices going right back up, energy prices sitting high and going higher as we creep up again with inflation, while, you know, the man in the White House simply says, I guess we're imagining it all. President Biden still plans to make a scheduled trip to Syracuse, New York today. Now, this is a head-scratcher, Gianno. So that's going to happen on Thursday. And despite pleas from local police, it will happen. People there in that community are grieving the loss of one police officer, and a sheriff's deputy, killed in the line of duty during a shootout last week. Local police union president with this. The department expressed their concerns to the Biden administration regarding his visit and the quick turnaround after 2 officers are being buried. And then the manpower that it would take and everything that our members have been through in the past week. Those concerns were expressed, and the Biden administration elected to move forward with the visit. That's a quote. Upstate New York Republican lawmakers are condemning the move. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik posted, "I stand with our local police officers in asking Biden to postpone his poorly timed visit to upstate New York." Congresswoman Claudia Tenney calls the decision misguided and cruel. Gianno.
A slap in the face. I think you said it so well, Harris, when you think about the fact that 136 police officers were murdered last year on duty. When you think about almost 400 police officers shot across our nation last year. When you think about Jonathan Diller, and we saw Donald Trump going to the funeral, but not Joe Biden, and now we see Michael Jensen. When you have so many officers across the country that are mourning the loss of their brothers and sisters in blue, and you see a president who simply does not have their backs. And you know this to be the case because even last year he was supposed to speak at the FOP for fallen soldiers. They printed his name on the billboard, and he still didn't show out. He pulled out at the last minute. This president does not have the back of not just law enforcement officers across the country, but including our military officers who all put their lives on the line for us. That is exactly why there is a need to change the commander-in-chief in the White House because he has failed and been derelict in his duties.
Real quickly, are there other people, African Americans across the country, with whom you've actually talked to in your coverage of politics that sound like caught a truss?
Absolutely. There's a lot of folks that are very, very upset. And to go back to your last question, where you said, what is the result going to be? I believe the ramification is going to be a surge in black votes for Republicans. But Republicans need to take note because I think they're voting for Trump, not necessarily the Republican Party. So if he gets all these big numbers as some people are predicting and expecting, then how do Republicans continue to take the ball forward that you can keep these voters on board? That's a really important point.
Yeah, that's excellent because you've got to make that work down ticket. And it might be easier than Republican candidates in other positions would even guess because of what's going on, unfortunately, for the citizens.
Go to Chicago
now they're
and talk to them.
Potentially vote in their own interests, and that's good for everybody. We should all do that, no matter what lane we drive in.
I agree.
Gianno Caldwell, thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.